Hey guys, so I know it's a different background, but I was getting a little bored filming in front of my bed, and yeah, I just wanted to switch it up. So today I am going to be doing a really exciting video. I thought of this idea that I think is going to be really interesting to try out. So I kind of got the idea because I was watching a lot of people do fiction and nonfiction pairings for Nonfiction November, and I really liked the idea of consuming both a piece of fiction and nonfiction on a very similar topic. So I wanted to do something similar where I kind of also recommended like book to TV show pairings. So yeah, I really wanted to do this because I find that a lot of the times I'm kind of battling between whether I should read a book or watch a TV show, and I usually end up gravitating towards watching a TV show. So I figured, why not try to pair books with a TV show so I can kind of get the joy of both reading and watching TV and expand my knowledge on one topic as I'm consuming both mediums, much like the videos that pair fiction and nonfiction books together. So in this video, I'm going to be showing you a couple of some of my favorite books and then a couple TV shows that I think you would like if you liked the book, or that would be good to read at like the same time. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this like slightly different type of video that I'm trying to do. I am a big fan of both TV shows and books, so I wanted to be able to do a video where I could combine the two and kind of share some of my interests in both mediums. So let me know in the comments below what TV shows you would recommend me for different books. So if you have like a favorite book and there's a great TV show that kind of goes with that book, or that you think is very similar with like the storyline or something like that, let me know in the comments below what your top book to TV pairing would be. So yeah, without further ado, let's just get into the books and TV shows. So I'm gonna start off by talking about the book and then recommending the TV show that I think would be a good match with it. So for the first book, I have The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I really enjoyed this book. I know that some people don't really like it because not a lot happens in terms of plot. This is very much a character-driven book, but that's what I really liked about it, because we got to see all these different characters from all these alien races kind of trying to coexist on this ship as they're traveling to this small planet. We follow a small crew that creates wormholes in the galaxy to help like create these easy pathways between different planets. Throughout the story, you get to see all of these characters in a very personal and intimate way and how they connect with the other people on the ship. And that is something that I really enjoyed about this book. I love books that take place in space that have a lot of characters and that really go into the different types of like alien races. I'm gonna recommend a series that I think is probably lesser known, and it's called Farscape. So Farscape is basically like a space drama as well. In this TV show, we are following our main character, who is an astronaut, but then gets sucked up into a black hole and then gets taken to like a deep side of the universe where there are different alien races and they're kind of battling between this group called the Peacekeepers. He joins a crew on a ship that is basically alive. It's like kind of like a giant whale almost that is alive, which kind of reminds me of the AI in A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. Their ship has a very like strong personality in the book, and the ship in the Farscape TV series also kind of doesn't speak necessarily, but it is like it's a living thing, so they have to like treat it well and take care of it. So in Farscape, you're following this crew of different alien races along with this human as they try to like escape from these peacekeepers and just make a way for themselves. The human is trying to kind of find his way back to Earth. So I really think that both of these, the book and the Farscape TV series, have a lot in common in terms of like character development and a lot of like the adventure that goes on. So if you really liked A Long Way to a Long Angry Planet by Becky Chambers, I highly recommend you check out Farscape. It's a fun TV show, especially if you're into like sci-fi TV. The next book that I have is The Rook by Danielle O'Malley. So this follows a girl called Miffany who has lost her memory and is kind of realizing that she is a part of this organization that helps to keep mythical creatures and magical aspects of our world a secret from the general public. And I think that if you really enjoyed The Rook, you would also enjoy the TV show called Torchwood. This is a UK TV show that's usually compared to like our X-Files. So it is a group of characters who are discovering and researching like supernatural elements that are happening in the world. So they have like this task force that goes and investigates them. So I highly recommend both of them. I really love Torchwood. I think it's like very eerie in some aspects, but also it's a really good show and I liked all the characters in it. And I think Rook is also a great book. So if you've read Rook, I highly recommend watching Torchwood and vice versa. So definitely a good pairing. I would probably recommend reading the book while watching the TV show. I think that would be a great experience too. While I didn't do that, I actually checked out Torchwood before reading this, but I think that would be like a good kind of opportunity to kind of see the similarities between the book and the TV show. The next book I want to talk about is The Remains of the Day by Kazuto Ishiguro. Now, I'm sure all of you are pretty familiar with his work. I personally was introduced to his writing by reading The Remains of the Day, and this is a very interesting book. It's about a butler. This is taking place in Britain after World War I, and he is a butler of a mansion that has kind of gone down. Like there is a new owner to the mansion, and he's kind of coming to terms with the era that he was brought up in and raised in is kind of disappearing. And it's also kind of like a low-key love story. So he's reflecting on his experiences working in this mansion and being the butler, and also all the opportunities that he missed out on. One of them being falling in love. I love this book. I think it's a very like sad book, but I think it reveals a lot about what it was like to be serving a higher class and kind of being loyal to that family. And I would definitely recommend that as you read Remains of the Day, you also watch Downton Abbey. Downton Abbey is one of my favorite TV shows. I absolutely loved it. I loved the time period and all the characters, and just getting to explore the, I guess, high society back then. I think the first season is probably my favorite. I really like the entire series as a whole, and the way it concluded I thought was done really well. But overall, I think that both of these pair really well together because they both kind of take place in the same era. You're following a butler in The Remains of the Day, and you're also in Downton Abbey. You also not only follow like the upper class and upper society, but you're also following the people who serve them. And the next book that I'd like to recommend is Zeros by Scott Westerfield. Now, I don't think this is like one of my favorite books of all time, but I really did enjoy it. It's basically a young adult novel about these group of kids that have unique powers. So one of them has the ability to kind of control technology and electricity. Another one is invisible. In the first book, they kind of all band together and start using their powers to figure out what is going on in their city. What I really liked about this book is that you really get to see all of the different characters and kind of their insecurities. It's like we all kind of dream of having superpowers and everything, but I think Scott Westerfield does a really good job in Zeros of exploring what that would actually mean and how these teenagers would be able to cope with that. So I really liked the first book. I think it is a trilogy, so there are 3 books out. I'm not entirely sure, but I've read the first book and I really enjoyed it. I think that if you liked Zeros, you would love the TV show Misfits. This is a UK TV show, but I think it's on Hulu. I think Hulu actually ended up buying like the rights to the TV show, so they ended up creating like the last 2 seasons of the show. So basically Misfits takes place in our world, but there is like a giant storm that occurs, and then after the storm people start getting like strange abilities, and it has a lot to do with kind of what they were doing at the time of the storm. So we follow these group of I guess they're adults. I don't know. Their age is not really specified in the TV show. They're all doing community service at this local like civic center, and they end up killing like their community service leader, and the story goes out from there, and how like most of the story kind of follows them trying to keep that a secret from the new community service leader, and trying to like cope with their new powers and abilities. I really, really love this TV show. It's probably one of my favorite TV shows of all time because it's absolutely hilarious, but I do recommend stopping after the second season. The first two seasons are probably the best of the entire series, and then it slowly gets worse and worse as time goes along. Like the last two seasons, half the characters aren't even the same anymore, so it's not as great in my opinion. But if you like weird misfit like superhero stories, but not like your typical superhero stories, because what I think Zeros does really good and what Misfits does really good is kind of like flips the whole superhero trope by making these people more ambiguous, and they're not necessarily good or evil, but just kind of in between. So I really recommend both the book Zeros and highly, highly recommend the TV show Misfits. The last book that I want to recommend is Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by Rennie Edo-Lodge. And I've talked a lot about this book on my channel, and I really, really love it because I love all the concepts that she talks about race. And this is dealing with race in the UK. So it is very different from kind of my experiences, because I've seen the topic of race really only discussed in terms of like the United States. So I really liked just kind of seeing how she brought upon the topics of race and how they were affecting people of color in Europe. So I really enjoyed this book, and I think that this is more kind of like a book and TV show pairing, but I think the TV show on Netflix, Dear White People, or even the movie Dear White People, the first season is pretty much exactly the same as the movie. But anyway, I think reading this while watching that TV show is going to be really great. The first season is probably my best recommendation because it shows you a lot about what it's like to be an African American and go to a predominantly white college, and especially an Ivy League college. And it's also about the kind of pandemic that was going on, about a lot of like fraternities having these like parties where they would glorify African American culture and also kind of incorporate blackface into their parties. So that's kind of what we have in Dear White People, is that there is a fraternity party where they dress up as like significant black characters, and why that is so problematic. And I think having the context of what Rennie Edo-Lodge talks about in this book, and then watching how that plays out in a setting, in the university setting, is going to be a great pairing, especially if you're not too familiar with the issues of race in America or in the UK. So I would highly recommend checking out this book and also watching Dear White People. So those are my book and TV show recommendations. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I really had fun kind of figuring out what books I wanted to discuss and what TV shows that I thought would be a really good fit with each book. So like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, let me know if you have any book and TV show pairings that you would recommend. I'd love to get some more ideas. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys tomorrow with another video.